Hello everyone, Rurikhan here coming at you with another First Impressions video, and today we're going to be taking a look at God of War Collection for the PlayStation Vita. This particular collection contains the titles God of War 1 and God of War 2 for your PlayStation Vita, and it was provided to me by PlayStation Portugal so that I could have a look at it and tell you guys my personal opinions on it. Now, this title is being recorded, this particular video is being recorded in post-commentary so that I can tell you guys about both games without having to worry too much about the gameplay, and so that I can show footage of both God of War 1 and God of War 2 without having to be switching titles and all that stuff. So it was just mostly a convenience thing. Now, for those of you that don't really know what God of War is all about, God of War is a brawler, an extremely violent brawler, where basically you dismember and kill a bunch of enemies, and you also fight against gods and Titanic-sized enemies, and as well you have the series' iconic quick-time events that usually lead to some pretty brutal executions, which just, to me, they kind of like top the charts when it comes to animation value. And you guys know that I'm more about animations than graphics, and the animations on the God of War titles have always been over-the-top amazing for me. Now, that is what you can expect out of God of War. I mean, you guys are probably watching some gameplay of me just slashing a bunch of people up, and some of you guys that maybe don't know that much about God of War might be wondering, but what about story? Is it cool in terms of story? Yes, me personally, I like the story of the God of War franchise. I'll have to be honest, I did not play the first two titles, so I'm just going off of what I know from God of War 3 and God of War Ascension, because I wasn't really into the whole console gaming scene when God of War 1 and 2 were at their peak, so to speak, because that was during the PlayStation 2 era. So, my experience from the God of War 3 as well as God of War Ascension was I've enjoyed the storylines on both of those. Arguably, I enjoyed God of War 3, God of War 3's story a lot more than God of War Ascension, but God of War Ascension had a lot cooler fighting mechanics and stuff like that, as well as the really cool multiplayer with the Trials of the Gods and all that, which these titles obviously don't have since they're older. It's just like I'm getting carried away by commentary, and I'm just like, oh, now let's talk about God of War 3 and God of War Ascension, and I really should be focusing on God of War 1 and 2. So what I've played of it was pretty solid. I mean, the gameplay is solid, the animations are solid. People might think that, oh, maybe the Vita controls are a little bit awkward for the God of War series, and not at all, because in God of War you actually don't have to turn the camera. The camera is automatically adjusted to suit whichever part of the level you happen to be at, which sometimes I believe might cause some confusion, at least in me. Sometimes it causes me to dodge when I'm actually trying to turn the camera, because you don't actually turn the camera and the right stick is used exclusively for dodging. There is one choice in input that I do have to criticize, and that is the back touchpad as a use button, so to speak, for you to interact with the environment. Like, let's say you want to pull a lever or something, you have to press the back touchpad on the Vita. Not really press it, you have to touch it. And I just have to say that, like, I feel that the front touchpad of the Vita is actually a lot more reliable than the back, because the thing about the back touchpad of your Vita is that usually you end up touching the back of the touchpad quite often, and maybe you didn't really want it to touch it. It's just the way that you're gripping the Vita sometimes causes you to touch the touchpad by mistake. Now, in this title, it doesn't really matter all that much. It's just like a general thing of why I don't like to use the touchpad on the Vita in general. The only title I've seen that really uses the touchpad to great effect was Tearaway. Yeah, Tearaway was the title that best used the back touchpad, as far as I can tell. So I just wish that they would have used the front touchpad, because I feel that would have been a much better alternative. But I mean, it's not really that big of a deal, because I haven't really had any issues with it. It's just like a personal preference type of deal. So by now you guys probably have a decent idea of what the game is about, how the game plays. There's both a lot of action sequences where you're going to be mowing down enemies left, right, and center. There's a lot of action sequences where you're going to be fighting Titanic-sized enemies, and you're going to be doing quick-time events. And then there's also a couple of puzzles added in the mix that involve you interacting with the environment, or just doing some navigation, some platforming, stuff like that. And that's kind of like the way that the game divides itself. when you're in the combat, when you're in combat is when the game feels at its finest. Like when you're just mowing down dozens of enemies, trying out new combos, trying out new grappling moves, and seeing what is more efficient against what type of enemy, because you will have to face off against different types of enemies in different ways. But it is overall a solid title in my opinion, and I mean, it's like I'm reviewing God of War 1 and 2 right now, which is obviously shouldn't be the case. It's just to give you guys an idea of what the game feels like. Now, let's talk about the specifics of the PlayStation Vita port. Is it a good port? Well, in my opinion, it's actually not that great. I mean, like I said, it is a functional port. It works just fine, but it could have used a little bit more optimization, because I came across quite a bit of frame rate drops, which I find really shouldn't be happening, particularly because the title doesn't even look that amazing. I mean, you guys are watching footage on YouTube, which has been compressed by YouTube, which basically destroys any footage that you throw onto it. I mean, YouTube compression is just utter and complete garbage. But on top of that, it's also been stretched from the native resolution of the Vita, which is like 900 and something by 500 and something. I think it's 960 by 544. And that is being scaled all the way up to 1080, because that's kind of the way that I like doing my videos. I like having the 1080p standard. So obviously the footage is not going to look that great, but on the Vita screen it looks a lot better than what you're watching on YouTube. But even still, I felt that it could have looked better on the Vita screen, because I've seen a lot of titles on the Vita. As you guys are aware, I'm a big supporter of the Vita, and I've played a lot of titles on the Vita. There are a lot of really good looking games on the Vita. And I feel that even using the older assets and all that, I feel they could have done a better job of fleshing out the engine, optimizing it. But then again, the thing is, this is an old game. This is a PlayStation 2 game being ported onto the Vita. So I guess there have to be some concessions to it. And I feel that those concessions have been made in engine optimization, in the form of every now and then you will get annoying frame drops. However, apart from that, I feel that the animation is solid. The sound still has that that feel that from, you know, it feels dated. I can't say it any other way. The sound feels a little bit dated because back in the day, you would be limited in terms of disk space for your games, so obviously the gaming companies would compress sounds. Very much in line with what I mentioned in the Sly Cooper Trilogy video, if you guys remember that. The sound just feels a little bit dated, but it doesn't really remove that much from the experience. I mean, as you are moving through the game, eventually you probably won't even notice it, unless you're just like some kind of weird audiophile, at which point you really shouldn't be playing older games, because you're just going to get upset with them. But apart from that, it's just a solid title. It's just a solid experience. If you want to experience God of War 1 and 2 on your PlayStation Vita, sure, this is a good way to go. A lot of you guys are probably going to be getting this for free, because like I mentioned, actually I'm not sure if I mentioned that or not, because I've made several takes on this video, but this title is going to be available via cross-buy to everyone that owns the digital version of the God of War collection for God of War 1 and 2. So if you own that on your PlayStation 3, the digital version, you can get this particular version for free. Now, I know that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be crying foul because maybe they have the physical versions of the God of War collection, so they're not going to be able to get a copy of the God of War collection for the PlayStation Vita for free. And while I do realize that sucks, and I do sympathize, because I myself am someone who prefers to have the physical copies. As a matter of fact, I own physical copies of both the God of War collections for the PlayStation 3, as well as the physical copy of God of War 3 and the collector's edition of God of War Ascension. So I'm a huge God of War fan, even though I haven't really played the previous 4 titles. I just played 3 in Ascension. I still really enjoyed my experience with Kratos, and I would highly recommend you guys to check it out. Even if not the PlayStation Vita port, maybe you want to check out the PlayStation 3 versions, whatever. As a matter of fact, I have to say, myself personally, I feel that I'm probably going to be playing, when I do decide to devote some time to playing the older versions of the God of War, for the older titles of the God of War franchise, I'm probably going to do so on the PlayStation 3 and not necessarily on the Vita. But it is definitely an option, and I am definitely happy with the fact that this title is coming to the Vita, because some people only have the Vita to play, so it's always nice to see more titles being launched to it. I just feel that now they also need to release the second collection so that you have everything, as well as they need to put God of War 3 on the Vita itself. But that is probably something for the future, I'm going to assume. But for right now, I have to say, it is a functional port. I can't really sing too many praises about it because it is what it is. It is a functional port. It is not particularly well optimized for the Vita, and I don't think the graphics are really going to blow anyone away. It works. It's a functional port. If you feel like experiencing the story on your Vita, I don't think you really can go wrong with it. If you've never played it before and all you have to play it on is a Vita, or if you just happen to have more opportunities to play a title like this on the Vita, then sure, it's great. I wholeheartedly advise it. I mean, you're watching footage in the background. You should be able to make up your own mind, which is usually the motto that I take in my videos. I like showing big chunks of gameplay so that people can make up their own minds whether or not they want to buy a game, and I don't have to tell them to do so. But overall, I can't completely hide the fact that I was a little bit disappointed because I was expecting more. But then again, like I've mentioned, this is a PlayStation 2 title. So, I mean, I guess they're limited in what they can do with the PlayStation 2 title for the PlayStation Vita without investing large amounts of money on the port itself. But anyways, that is going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section if this is something that you guys are planning on getting, if you guys feel like you would rather play this on your PlayStation 3 or even on your PlayStation 2. Just let me know what your opinions are in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.